Hey there, this is Beth Hovis, your sweet urban living lady. Welcome back to the podcast. I want to welcome you to this morning as I was preparing and I was reading and doing something, I was thinking about the podcast and I was thinking, these are really stories of hope. These are journeys that people have been through that bring hope to others because someone has been through something similar or maybe the very same thing and they've come through it and now they're helping others. And I'm really excited to welcome my guest today, AnneMarie Battis. Hello there, AnneMarie. Should I
Hi,
just
Beth.
call you Ree? I've always called you
Just call me
AnneMarie.
Ree. My friends and family call me Ree,
All
but
right.
you got to use all that legal last
All
name
the,
and that kind of
yeah, yeah.
stuff,
Well, let me
whatever.
just do a really quick introduction and then we can dive into your fascinating story, which is a journey of hope. So I know
Sure.
Anne-Marie from from Trinity School of Natural Health. Anne-Marie, I don't think you were any of them in my classes. Were you in any
I
of the
was
classes?
not in any of
But
your
you were
classes, but I
right,
knew of you because of Judy and Tracy and
right.
everybody. But yeah, we knew we knew all the
Yeah, and
instructors.
then we just got to get to know each other through the live events and online and things like that. And you helped me the other day with my AO scan and all that kind of stuff. So I'm glad to know you not only as a colleague, but as a friend as well. But let me just
Absolutely.
share. So, Anne-Marie Battis is a naturopathic health practitioner who focuses on an integrative approach to wellness, educating and empowering others through natural health solutions. After a serious, life altering health scare in 2010 that left her fat, sick, and nearly dead, and
Hmm.
diagnosed with lymphedema from head to toe, she beat all odds. By God's grace, she chose life, recovered, and is now thriving. She credits her healing to God and to the medicine He gave us, natural health support. With a background as a biochemical researcher, Anne-Marie knew the body, but didn't yet know how to support it. Her experience in 2010 led her back to school, but not only to heal herself, but to help others as well. As a teacher at heart, she now brings that passion into her coaching practice where her favorite natural health tools include frequency therapy, detoxification, real food nutrition, peptides, and movement. She loves educating home healers in God's medicine and empowering them to truly thrive. Dr. Ree lives in southeastern Pennsylvania with her family and embraces a country lifestyle, which is my favorite, including serving her local Amish neighbors as clients who readily embrace God's health care. She's active in her church and community, and at the center of her world is her favorite person, her ride or die bestie, Charlotte, her 3-year-old granddaughter. God is
Yes, she
good.
is. Yes, she is.
So, welcome, welcome again. I'm so
Thank
glad that
you.
you're here. And I just want you to tell us because, it really is funny. As we were chatting before we hit the record button, you said something about hope.
Mhm.
That you are actually like dealing hope.
That's pretty much what I end up doing. Whether I never realized it until I had clients starting to say it in front of
Yeah,
other people,
yeah.
and I was like, okay, I never thought about it looking at that way because I always looked at my journey as I didn't have this, so I became that, which is
Mm,
very common for a lot of people.
yeah.
If you're, whether it's, in your personal life, like I didn't have this, like my, father didn't model this, but I found it in a spouse, or my mother didn't model this, but I found it within myself to do, or whatever, like whatever we didn't have that teacher that poured into us. I became that teacher
Mm,
that poured into my students.
mm-hmm.
I chose to work. Many years ago, I taught in high school science at an alternative high school when I lived in Texas, and I chose those students because they were the ones that were at risk, that nobody cared about, that
Mm,
were thrown to the wayside.
mm-hmm.
And I was very fortunate that I I had that when I was growing up.
Yeah.
I had a loving family. I had people, surrounded that loved me. And so I poured into that for them, and I
That's
tried
awesome.
to,
You know,
help to bridge that gap.
that's something else you and I have in common is we both taught high school science. I
Yep.
taught physical science. What did you teach? Was
I
there a
taught,
specific?
well, because the way that the school was structured, I taught 7th through 12th grade.
So you taught a lot.
High, which is a lot. So everything from earth science, physical science, and I could have taught a whole lot more, but a lot of those kids, you had to teach them how to read first
Yeah.
before you could get anything else into them. And so there was a lot of remedial things, whatever. But it was basically middle school and high school science
Gotcha.
for them. But
Wow. Now
yeah,
you said so you taught, and that's cool because I
yay,
like
STEM
you.
girls. No.
Yeah, like you, I'm like I loved my time teaching physical science. But you said you were a biochemical researcher.
I
So
did.
how did that happen?
Well, I had gone to, when I went to grad school, I went to grad school in Texas, and that's where I ended up teaching for a while.
Hmm.
And then there's a military base that's actually not too far from me here. It's about 40 minutes down the road. Everything is 40 minutes from me, okay, because
Okay.
I live in the middle of nowhere.
Uh-huh.
But it's about 40 minutes south of me, and it's a military base. And so I contracted for the Department of Defense, and I did several classified, programs that were all biochemically related. And so I had, most of it I can't talk about, but some of
Sure.
it was pretty cool because it incorporated my love of serving others. So one of the projects that I worked on was for the Veterans Administration.
Mm.
So when a veteran the would come to the hospital or vet hospital or whatever and say, I was exposed to XYZ when I was serving in the military.
Hmm.
I did the research to find out if they were in fact exposed, what that chemical would do to the body, all that kind of thing. Also researching, I had a project that I researched older, meaning World War I, World War II, kind of documents down in the vault, which was a scary place, but down in the vault that, and translate whatever I could, chicken scratch, I could read and get out of there and translate it for the non-scientific reader. There was another project I worked on that we were deconstructing buildings on that military base that had once housed chemical warfare.
Oh.
And so I was the liaison between the guys that were actually demoing the building and the science part, because you can't, a lot of people don't realize this, but you can't just go in and demo a building and just try to blow it up, especially if it's once housed biochemical things. And
Sure.
so you got to see, kind of compare, okay, well, if you use demolition or whatever, then that's going to do this, or sparks may fly or whatever. And even though a lot of these buildings have been dormant for quite some time, you needed kind of somebody like me, and there was a small team of us that, figured that out. So I actually saved the government about $6 million. I got an award
Oh,
that I
cool.
saved the government. Well, I was on the team
Yeah.
that saved the government $6 million on
Wow.
this project
That's
because I'm a pretty thrifty nickel, so I kept on top of the guys. So
wow.
yeah, it was pretty cool. So yeah, I worked there for a number of years, and I loved it. But I worked there until I got sick.
Okay, so
Because
you were
really,
there. So you were still in Texas at that time.
no, I was here at the
So you had to
military
come back
base
home. Oh, so you
when I
come back
got
home.
sick. Yes, when I
Okay.
got sick. Now, mind you, knowing what we know now, the sickness was starting well before that.
Yeah.
Okay. But so I don't know how in depth you want me to get, but I'll give you a little bit more than the Cliff Note version. How about
Okay,
that?
that's cool.
Okay, a little bit more than the Cliff Note version. So anyway, I had probably months before was having digestive issues and I didn't understand why. And I was popping, I don't know if we're allowed to use all these, pharmaceutical names, but Xanax, like, not Xanax, Xanax, like crazy because, trying to keep that heartburn down, trying to, and it never once dawned on me because I never knew natural health was an actual viable option for anybody's health. I mean, I knew chiropractors and massage therapists. I always thought that was like, that's nice if you can do it and it, might help support the body a little bit or whatever. But, you got to go to the real doctors. And I didn't see the need to go to a medical doctor because I didn't like them really. I was never a sickly person. So, after 6 months of popping a lot of, Zantac to try to keep the acid reflux down,
Yeah.
I went into work one day. I had meatloaf the night before for dinner. And the only reason I say this is because it took me probably years to eat meatloaf again.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't the meatloaf. I thought it was the meatloaf. But I went into work and went to the ladies' room, and I ended up passing out in the ladies'
Oh,
room in a very compromising position
yeah.
because it was coming out one end and the other and every
Oh,
which way, and I passed out. And thankfully, the secretary was like really like on top of things, and she's like, where the heck did AnneMarie go? Like, she's been gone for 45 minutes. What the heck? And came looking for me. And so, note to self, don't pass out on a military base, all right? Because I came to, and there were 17 EMTs and all these men just all in there. And here I am. I mean, yeah, that
yeah.
part was not fun.
Yeah.
But anyway, so they rushed me to local hospital. And I had a bowel obstruction. And so, you would think that they could treat that kind of from the waist down. Oh, no, 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 no.
Yeah.
They put tubes in your nose
Yeah.
and run it down.
Uh-huh.
And so I had to sit there for a week with stuff coming up. They took about 14 liters out. Less than pleasant, but, you do what you got to do. And I was told, well, sometimes things like that happen. Your intestines are like a garden hose and they crimp and they, sometimes get stuck. And I was like, okay, yeah, I know that. And they said, well, that's kind of fluky. It happened. And I was like,
Fluky.
okay, that's what the medical doctor said.
Okay.
So therefore it's gospel. And I don't doubt that that's what happened because everything, was fighting for room. Now, the only other symptoms that I had was shortness of breath, and I was just I was gaining weight like a hound dog, like, and I never change my diet. I am unfortunately one of those people. You could clockwork. I'm eating meatloaf. I'm eating, like, I didn't change my diet. I didn't change anything. I'm gaining weight like crazy. I can't breathe. So the doctor was like, well, you're gaining weight, so that's probably why you're having trouble breathing. No, no, it's not that. So they decided that they were going to take out take out the my tonsils and adenoids and, kind of rotor-rooter here. Really bad move. Okay,
Yeah.
in
Oh, yeah.
retrospect, really
Yeah.
bad move. Didn't know it at the time because, again, I had laid my hands out to the medical community. And let me just preface, I am not anti-medical. Okay, the medical community
Absolutely.
brings a lot to the table, but not when it comes to caring for the body or looking at how can I save a body organ or how can I, make a difference for this person. They just either yank or medicate. And so, that's the problem. And I didn't know better. And I didn't have anybody in my life that knew better. And so anyway, so they're yanking everything out that, well, I'm still not breathing. I'm still, all of these things. And then I had another bowel obstruction. And this all happened in like 2 weeks.
Oh gosh.
And I was like, okay. You can fool me once with this garden hose crimping and all that. You're not going to do that again a second
But
time.
okay,
You
so but
people,
2 weeks with a tube with stuff coming
yeah,
out.
one week for the tube of the
Okay,
stuff coming out. Yeah,
okay. But still, 2 weeks later, I'm going, I can't imagine you being that hungry that you would
I
have been
wasn't.
eating, you wouldn't have been eating anything to further.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
Exactly. And I went back, and before I got the second bowel obstruction, I I went to my GP because they told me, we'll
Yeah,
follow up with them, and
sure.
and I did, and I waited, and I said I was in so much pain. I was sitting there crying in his office, and he just looks at me, completely dismissed. I mean, you want to talk about medical gaslighting?
Oh no.
And he completely dismissed me, and he was like, well, it just sounds like, you're a little full, like you're a little constipated, like you probably and I'm looking at him going, they just took 14 liters of stuff out of me. What do you mean I'm backed up? There's nothing in there.
Wow.
Like it's like I can't even imagine. And I was like, this is crazy. This is absolutely crazy. So then my son drove me, because I had to get rides everywhere. I couldn't drive. I couldn't, so my son drove me to the emergency room.
Mm.
And again, like I said, I wouldn't wish a bowel obstruction really on my worst enemy if there is a person.
No,
So
oh gosh.
because it is so painful. It is, and I've had children. Okay, like it is painful.
Hmm.
So anyway, so I'm in there. I'm like, look, you guys have to figure out what's going on here because this is insane. I'm not buying the whole it accidentally crimped and all of it. Find out, take tests, look, because they didn't do any tests, they didn't do any scans, they didn't do anything the first time. And after the second one, I was like, figure it out. Okay, I don't care.
Hmm.
You have me here, you've got to figure this out.
Hmm.
And so they scheduled, MRIs and CTs and all this kind of stuff. And of course, they ordered them from waist down. But the technician accidentally did it from neck down.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, I know, right?
Hmm.
Which we all know nothing's an accident and everything is ordained by God. And, lo and behold, they found a tumor inside of my heart.
Whoa.
I know. And it was the size of a walnut. That puppy was big. I named him George.
In your
Because
heart.
yeah,
Not beside your
inside
heart,
of
not on, inside your heart. Okay.
the left atrium of my heart.
Wow. Okay.
And I had two fibroid tumors inside of my uterus, and they were huge, and that
Oh,
was what was causing the bowel obstructions.
yeah.
But again, how did God have them to do the scan that they needed to do?
Hmm.
Because there were no signs or symptoms of the one inside of my heart, so we had to stir up trouble to the ones in my uterus to
Hmm.
make sure that I got in to see somebody to get a picture to get this all to happen.
Wow.
Okay. And
Yeah.
so obviously the one inside of my heart was the one that was the most dangerous and crazy and all of the things,
Sure.
and was the emergency. And so they operated on that one first.
Hmm.
And then I almost 5 months later, they went in and took care of the fibroid ones and
Okay.
removed them and ended up having to do a hysterectomy with that.
Wow.
And so it was a like I'm telling you, it was a crazy time. It really
Hmm.
was. And meanwhile, bowel obstruction, I'm sitting there again with tubes down my nose and all of this. And one of the doctors came in and he introduced himself as, cardiac doctor and this and this and that. I was like, oh, honey, you got the wrong room. I got GI things going on over here. Like you got the wrong room. And he said, are you sure? Are you AnneMarie? Yeah, that's me. And a great, lovely guy. Absolutely love this doctor.
Good.
And he's like, so about that GI thing, you've got a tumor inside of your heart. So that's the emergency. And he wanted to
Wow.
care flight me down to Baltimore because I was just in like our local hospital, which, was a decent hospital. And he's like, yeah, you need the big dogs for this one. He said, I have been posting what we think is going on to all of the top surgeons at University of Maryland, at Johns Hopkins University, like all of them were vying to do your surgery because
Wow.
nobody had ever been found alive with this tumor.
Oh my gosh.
It was a rare tumor, and nobody had been found alive.
Really?
They have found them on rare occasion when somebody would just die and somebody would want an autopsy. They may have found it
So
in
you
autopsy,
are
but
like a
I was the
walking
only one alive.
miracle. Yeah, walking miracle. Oh my gosh.
I was a, and they treated, let me tell you, I felt like I was the queen of everything when I was at the hospital, so I had to like real quick make a decision as to which hospital was going to get my surgery. And I picked University of Maryland Hospital, and the chief thoracic surgeon there did the surgery, and my body was so smart. Okay, now Beth, you and I know it was the size of a walnut. It didn't happen that way overnight.
No, of
Okay,
course
it
not.
doesn't
No,
happen that way
no,
overnight.
no, no.
It had been going on for quite some time. Not one, except for the shortness of breath, and the weight gain is a different topic I'll talk about in a second. But the shortness of breath, okay, because it was inside the heart, circulation, all the things. Okay, so now we know, all right, it didn't happen overnight,
No.
and we know this.
Right.
My body was so smart, it encapsulated it.
Yes.
All he had to do was poop, pop it out.
Wow.
It was crazy. I mean, he was completely stunned. He's like, there was no tentacles. It wasn't attached to anything. It was just there. My body was that smart to do that, to save
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
Okay. Now that I know what I know, bent up stored trauma, all of, like emotional things, all of that, because your heart is your love center so now that I know what I know, I was like, oh, okay, no surprise there. Because it had every medical doctor baffled, and everybody in the place was like, oh, that's her. Oh, that's her. Oh, oh. And that's all I heard for, the week or two that I was in the hospital
Wow.
was, oh, that's her. Like this one's trying to get me out of bed. And then the other one comes in and says, oh, no, don't do that. No, 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 it's her. Oh, no, I don't want to do that. So I had a lot of that going on. And so it really wasn't until I was like off the adrenaline high of, oh my gosh, did I realize, wow, that's pretty trippy. That is like insane.
Yeah.
And because it's a research hospital, they wanted background, they wanted, all kinds of things. I'm like, I've never been a sickly person. I mean, I had complications. I had lost my first son. And my second son, it was a very high risk pregnancy. But, other than that, I've been a pretty healthy person. I don't get sick. I don't get colds. I don't. And he was like, well, we need to know more. So they wanted to do genetic things because they thought that it had like genetic markers to it. And so I just, did what they told me to do and everything. And the best part, as if, okay, Satan wanted all of this to be bad. Okay. He wanted this to do me in. And God turned every single aspect of all of this around. That's what he does. The only bad part was being left with a diagnosis of lipolymphedema from head to toe. So that part is not fun. But one of the better parts of all of this is that I found family members that I was longing to find.
Oh.
And so now my family is like a Hallmark movie, meaning it's just wonderful. It's big. It's wonderful. And so, when people say, oh my gosh, it was so horrible. Yeah, I mean, while I was going through it, wasn't a really great time for sure. And it was confusing. I scared the crap out of my poor son. I mean, he was just a teenager. And God, that child loves me. He took care of me. He did so good. And now he's 30. So, he's not a kid anymore. But like there's so much ugly that you could look at in this situation, especially being left with lipolymphedema. That part is definitely not a fun thing. It's very challenging. Really, it could have been so much worse.
Yeah. But so you had several different things going because you said tumors on the, was it the fallopian tube?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
it was well, they were in in the near the ovaries into one was in the fallopian tube and one was actually in further down in the vagina. So they were huge. They were
And
like the size of
they were
grapefruits.
pushing on the bowel, and that's what's
Yeah.
then causing
And
the
everything
bowel.
was causing problems. And to top everything off, underneath this gray hair, I have red hair. Okay. And
Beautiful
so,
red hair.
yes, thank you. I miss my red hair. I've been assured that being a redhead is more of a personality than what was on my head, but still, I
I
miss my
don't
red
think you
hair.
lost your ginger personality. No.
Good, good, because I was
From what
really,
I
I never,
know of you, no.
I know, but I never really realized like how attached I was to that till
Mm,
my hair
yeah.
came in, and I was like, but I miss my red hair.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was like a thing. But so anyway, the whole kit and caboodle was me moving forward in
Mm-hmm.
all of this.
Mm-hmm.
This like the tumors that were down there were like the size of grapefruits.
Wow.
Me not being able to handle anesthesia, meaning not so much that it like I would have an adverse reaction, but like like the surgeon that did my GYN did the surgery like 4 or 5 months later and took out the tumors down there.
Mm-hmm.
I woke up, the man was holding my hand. And I was like, and this was Saturday morning, 9 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, honey, what are you doing here? You need to be home with your family. He's like, I'm exactly where I need to be. He said, you have scared the life out of me.
Oh, wow.
I'm like, what do you mean? He said, I gave you enough anesthesia to knock over an elephant. And he said, and I couldn't get you under. And I was like, oh, so sorry.
Yeah.
I was like, red hair. He's like, I know. He said,
Yep.
but I've never had anybody,
Yep.
So yeah, so there was always different ways that Satan kept trying to like, get his agenda in there and everything. And God was like, yeah, no, we're not having it. So I found family, I found, like health, and I lived and didn't die
Yeah.
because they gave me about 6 months. They were like, okay, well, the surgery, you're not agreeing to anything else. So the surgery, we did the best we could. You got about 6, 9 months. And so I had to go
So
through the
even
stages.
after having the tumor removed from the heart,
Well, and the other ones,
and then the,
because the one inside my heart has genetic markers and it can grow back.
okay.
And says, and they thought it was very fast moving. Now that I know what I know, it wasn't fast moving.
Mm-hmm.
It was a slow progression, probably over many years
Mm-hmm.
of trauma in my past that kind of accumulated that. And they're like, 6 to 9 months, we bought you some time and whatever, but 6 to 9 months. And so I had to go through the
Wow.
stages of grief and all of the things like super quick, because one day God woke me up and he says, girlfriend, I gave you the ability to figure this out.
Mm.
So stop feeling sorry for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Like, knock it off. Okay. It was one of those kind of
Enough is
conversations.
enough. Now get on with your
It's like,
life.
okay, you did your crying. And my redheaded, stubborn personality was, okay, if I'm going out kicking and screaming because I don't want my son to see this. I want him to have strength by this. Because I was told I wasn't going to see grandkids. I wasn't going to see him, grow up and get married and all the things. And so I thought, well, if I'm going out kicking and screaming.
Yeah.
And like I said, well, what my body was left with was a diagnosis of lipedema and lymphedema. And both of those are two very different things. A lot of people don't realize that. They think it's the same thing, but they're two very different things. And so the challenge actually became not just living, but trying to thrive. And so as I was doing research and as I was trying to figure things out, I was getting better and better. So here I was housebound in a wheelchair to, a few months later into a walker, a few months later, not in a walker, not, and before you knew it, I was functioning just like, most anybody else.
So were the diagnoses of lymphedema and lymphedema because of the
Okay, well,
tumors,
that's what they
or is that
told
a
me.
okay?
Yeah, that's what they told me. And really, it took them over a year to figure it out. It was
Okay.
very desponding to me because I kept gaining weight. I kept, and at this point I was very immobile. So the weight was like faster because I couldn't walk it
Yeah,
off
you're not
like before
moving,
I used to be
right?
able to walk it off. And I was so depressed. I was like, oh my gosh, like, what am I going to do? I can't exist like this. This is crazy. Now, I've never been this big around except, maybe high school, but I was always in a good physical state. And, I'm not even 5 foot tall. So I can't carry a lot of weight.
Mm-hmm.
And it just kept, and I just was so despondent by all of it. And I finally, because my feet were like huge, I couldn't get shoes on. I couldn't, and so finally I thought, okay, nobody else seems to figure out what the world's going on here. I see every doctor's like, well, good luck with all of that, that weight. And they would, I had one doctor put me on Lasix, which is the absolute worst thing you could do for somebody with a diagnosis of lymphedema. So, then I was dehydrated, and then this, it was like this secret storm. And this is where I feel like medical science has no clue what they're doing. Like they had, I was very grateful that, Dr. Griffith was able to take out the tumor and do, his things and, all of those kind of things. But as far as the care for the body, no. And it wasn't until doctor number 5, because all of them say the same thing, because of course they're all trained the same way. Doctor number 5 was a DO, and he's like, well, we can make you comfortable. Okay. Because there is no cure for what you're dealing with, but, we can make you comfortable. And there's, chiropractic, there's massage therapy, manual lymphatic drainage, essential oils. I was like, okay, I heard of the other stuff. What's essential oils? And he's like, you're the researcher, figure it out. Okay, so now I'm paying you and I got to do your job for you.
Now I got to do your work for you. Right.
And he's like, yeah, right. So you're not going to, I was like, okay, fine, I'll give it to you. And that sent me, that was like the best thing in the world.
Okay.
That sent me on the journey, like literally keyboard crazy, trying to figure this out. The minute I saw essential oils, I was like, oh, they look lovely, because it biochemist in me. I was like, ooh, these look nice. Now, mind you, I had so much medical debt I couldn't even see straight. And so the last thing I had any money for was something, outside or frivolous or whatever. Well, I squirreled my pennies and I got me a little case of these pure essential oils. I had no idea what I was doing, but I thought, what do I got to lose?
Right.
Right? You don't have anything to lose. Desperate people do desperate things.
Sure. Right.
And so I was putting them in me, on me, all over, like anywhere I could fit. And lo and behold, I started getting better and I started getting stronger and I changed my nutrition. And even though my nutrition was not bad, I was not as fastidious as I am now. I started to listen to my body as to how it felt after I ate things. And a lot of this is intuitive. It wasn't learned behavior because I didn't learn anything until further down the road. When I started living and not dying, because I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm not dying, so I got to go to work. I got to make money. I got to, know. And, my family was like, do you not see like how you light up like a Christmas tree when people ask you questions about all the stuff you're doing? Because as I'm getting better, people around me are watching. And they're like, oh my gosh, AnneMarie, what are you doing? What's going on? Like, can you help me? I'm like, oh, no, 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 no. You need like fancy initials behind your net. Like, no, 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 no. It's one thing to guinea pig on yourself or
Yeah.
even your kid,
Yeah.
but you don't guinea pig on other people. And you need and family was like, well, go get fancy initials. Really? Like, I got $300,000 in medical debt. You want me to,
Wow.
at this point,
What's
I
a
mean,
few thousand more, right?
you know, and so I did.
Yeah.
And I took what I was learning, just even venturing into the essential oils, because the company where I buy them from, they give a lot of education and, stuff like that. So I was learning things that way. But then that's where I found Trinity, and it just snowballed. It just exponentially snowballed. So the things that I learned at Trinity and my research and all of this stuff, I basically turned myself into somebody I didn't have to help guide me.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've always been that person that, in the absence of leadership or the absence of something, I'm more than happy to stand in the gap. And half the time I may not know what I'm doing, but I'm going to, I'm going to do it because nobody else is stepping up to the plate. I'm going to step up to the
I
plate.
call it the Indiana Jones syndrome, where he's like, they're watching the plane leave, and he's like, do you have a plan? And he's basically like, I'm making it up as I go. And
There you
so many
go.
times I'm like Indiana Jones, I'm just
Yep.
making it up.
We'll
'Cause-
figure it out. But
because we're
that's always my
having,
answer. We'll figure it out.
and that's so true in natural health. Now, today, there are lots of, schools and courses
Hmm.
and things for the natural health
Yep.
practitioner out there that you can go and you can get training. But when, back then,
Yeah, back
it was
then.
like there weren't as many, and getting
No.
your training was a lot more difficult than it is today. So
Well,
that's
and I
what I
couldn't
say.
move, it's not like like there was one school that I really wanted to go to, but you would have had to move, and it
Yeah.
would have been,
And that's the thing when I started looking into it too. It was like, well, you got to go out of state. You got to go to, I
yeah,
think there was something in Alabama and there's something in Washington State. But other than that, and I'm like, well, I can't leave
yep,
my family.
exactly, exactly. Because,
So
I mean, if it had been 20 years earlier and I was, no children and no
right,
everything,
right.
whatever, that's a whole different story. But
Yeah.
I was very established, here,
Hmm.
and there was, and like I said, I had my son, and there was no way that I wanted to, yank him up and move him again, and
Right,
all
right.
of the things. So I was like, I got to figure it out, and so I did, and I
Yeah.
did the best I could, and you know. And the thing about what we do for a living is you never stop learning. I mean, it just started with
I
Trinity.
know.
I mean, I am in school all the time. I'm taking courses. And I'm a nerd that way because,
Me
like, I
too.
just like, oh, another
Me too.
certification,
I
you
know there's
know.
something I'm looking at several things this year going, ooh, I want to do that. And ooh, I want to do that.
Exactly.
And
Like,
ooh, that
oh, I want
looks
to do
good.
this. And then, oh, you should have heard my family when I told them that I wanted to actually get certificate, like a degree or whatever in quantum physics.
Yeah,
Oh my gosh. They're like, AnneMarie, would you please? Okay. Really? You got to do that. I'm like, yep, I'm in there,
I
and they just
know.
shake their head. And, my mother, God love her, in her generation and probably in mine too. I'm the very last year of boomer. So I'm a last year of a boomer. Um, at 61, you're slowing down.
We could
Like,
be sisters. We could be
you know,
sisters. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, that's me. I'm
yep.
a last year boomer too.
And
Um,
see, and I got the whole, well, you need to be like slowing down, not going to get a degree, in
why?
quantum physics. And I'm like, why?
Why?
I still got at least
I still got a
25 to
brain.
35 more years here.
Yeah,
So,
I'm like I've still got a brain, and that's one of those things where the there's that PhD available
mhm.
at Kingdom College, and I'm sitting there drooling over that, going,
Oh, I've been
"Ooh,
drooling over that,
I
honey. Let
want
me
to do
tell
that
you.
one so bad," and I'm like, okay, so
Yep, that
praying
is
about that one.
that is definitely, I just,
Because I would
you
jump
know,
in. I mean, that's me. I would jump in right now if I
mhm,
had the funds to do it at
to
this.
be able
I'd
to
be
do
like
that.
all in.
Exactly.
And,
Exactly.
but it's okay. I look at it and then go, when it's time to take them, it's God will
God will
provide.
provide it. And
Hmm.
that's exactly what he's done. I mean, he, and he does it with all of us, and he has provided all along the way for me to be able to do things that blow my mind when I look back at some of the things that I've
Yeah.
been able to do over the past 15 years.
It's amazing how he opens doors.
It's
Just you're like,
ridiculous.
how, everything works out. And it's because, yeah, it's really fascinating. So,
It is really
okay.
ridiculous. And
So,
especially like with the special challenges that I
oh,
have
yeah.
with the lipodema and the lymphedema, because again, they're two different things. Lipodema is completely hormone related,
Mm-hmm.
and lymphedema is a congestion in your lymph nodes, which is your trash system of the
Right.
body. But
Yeah.
then I have found out things through all of this, like, the lymphedema part, the struggles of my lymph system is something hereditary.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that before,
You're
but
blue
it's
eyed,
something that,
right? You're blue eyed.
yeah. And the lipedema was caused by the instant hysterectomy.
Mm-hmm.
The components were there,
Mm-hmm.
but it wasn't until my body was traumatized and boom, yanking out everything. But I had a history of all kinds of female problems and even getting pregnant, like all of the things. And so, does any of this surprise me now? No. But at the
No.
time, I was like,
Well, and that's what I want to say, because you've said a few times as we've chatted here that, I wasn't sickly. I wasn't sickly. I wasn't sickly. And we
mhm,
have this concept. I just want to say that a lot of times we have this concept of not being, I'm not sick, I'm healthy. And yet you
mhm,
can still have health challenges and
mhm.
not be sick, right?
Oh, honey, I tell my clients all the time. They're like, well, I don't feel different, or I don't feel sick, or I don't. I didn't feel a freaking tumor this big
Hmm.
inside of my heart that
Hmm.
had been there probably for years.
Right.
You can't go on your feelings. You have to maintain the body.
And a lot of times it's I want to say this because you're going, I had trouble with getting pregnant. I had trouble with this. I had trouble with that. And it's like, see, that's not
Yep,
necessarily nothing. It may
exactly.
not, you may not feel bad, but it's not necessarily nothing. And that's what the shortness
Hmm.
of breath, the difficulty with hormones, the whatever it is, we separate it into well, you're not sick, it's just hormone imbalance, or you're not sick. And I'm not trying to speak sickness on anybody. I'm just saying a lot of times we separate and put symptoms in different categories,
Hmm.
not realizing how overall it still affects our health. And then something
Yep.
happens, the traumas happen, the injuries happen, something happens, and all this. And then that's where people are going, and all of a sudden I was dealing with this. And it's like, but
Hmm.
it's not really
It's
all of
not
a
all of a
sudden.
sudden. That check light has been trying to, well, because
Right,
we don't maintain. That's the problem, is we
right,
don't maintain what God gave us because we were never taught, most of
right.
us. I mean, now my son knows better and, because he lived through the crazy with me. And so he's raising his daughter differently. And I'm able to, have at least, 2 cents into the different things, and how to do things a lot differently for
Mhm.
her
Mhm.
and for himself and his
Mhm.
wife, and, than I was able to do,
Mhm.
because I didn't know
Right.
any better.
Right.
And so now we can say, okay, we're going to change the next generation and my granddaughter. And let me tell you, that little baby girl, she has her own essential oils. She has her own library. She has her own whole things. You know where she goes? To my books. And she wants to read Nan's books.
That's
And I was
awesome.
like, baby girl, these are all going to be yours one day. You're going to be the
Yeah.
next naturopath in the family. Because she is like all over it. She gets on that vibration plate. She gets on we call it jumpy jumpy. It's the rebounder.
Mhm.
She gets into, because I have a whole room. It's a therapy room in my house. And she gets in there and she just thinks it's like the best thing ever.
Of course. Of
Okay.
course. And it
And it's
is.
all preventative, and we're doing, things that are, preventative for her. And hopefully, because yes, is our epigenetics a thing? Absolutely.
Hmm.
Okay. But it's not everything, and it doesn't define who
Right.
you are.
Yeah.
And, if I'd have known what I know now back then, and I could beat myself up over this, mind you, but if I'd have known what I know now back then, I probably could have prevented a lot of what I deal with now, because I would have seen the signs and the markers and got onto it. So I look for things like that in
Mm-hmm.
family members and
Mm-hmm.
also in clients.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because there are some telltale signs, as you know, when we learn about face mapping and we learn about, all the body language and all the other things that we learn
Mm-hmm.
about in school. And I can look at somebody, oh, honey, okay, yeah, no, we need to address this. Like, how do you know that happened? Yeah, well, just lucky guess. you know, we're
Because
great at party
the
tricks,
body's
right?
speaking. Our face, our eyes, our body, like you said, our body is
Yeah.
speaking about things. Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
And yeah, and they'll say, "Oh, well, I've had migraines all my life," and what? Are you kidding me? Like, that's your body screaming at you. You need to pay attention to that.
Yeah.
When I tell people I haven't had a cold, flu, sniffle, fever, COVID, nothing, not even a headache in over 12 years. And they're like, how in the world do you do that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because I got myself to balance, and then I fight like crazy to keep myself there,
Mm-hmm.
because my body fights me. Like this,
Mm-hmm.
it's in a constant battle, but I'm winning. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I keep winning. I do a lot of things. The normal trajectory of people with stage 2 lymphedema, even just in their legs, is to be 600 pounds in the bed. And the suicide rate is huge,
Sure.
huge
Wow.
for people with lymphedema. And I don't let any of it stop me. And I'm not 600 pounds, and I'm not the bed.
No, you're not. In fact, you travel, you go places, you do things,
And people don't realize that travel costs me.
Yeah.
That's that spoon theory thing. It costs me to do that.
Mm-hmm.
It's not always just money. The money comes and goes, but it costs me.
Yeah.
The ascent and descent of a plane,
Mm-hmm.
the pressure on this
Mm-hmm.
body is horrible.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, in an already very compromised body. So if I'm out flying somewhere and I'm going, doing things and stuff like that, you have to know there has been a huge cost, and it's got nothing to do with money. But I see so much value on on the other side of that
Mm-hmm.
visit, like whatever conference I'm going to, or whatever, that it's completely worth it for me
Right.
to
But
go.
most people who have that diagnosis that you have, especially both of them, would not be able to travel at
Oh no,
all, not even get on an airplane. They can't entertain
no,
that. So,
no.
yeah. So even though you're living with it, you're winning every day. Every day.
Every day, and every day I get stronger. Every day God brings things to mind, like, hey, wow, let's now work on this.
Mm-hmm.
Let's do this. Or did you think about this? Or wow, there's this new tool out there that can help to move this, or whatever. And so I have a whole link tree thingy or whatever that people can go in and shop of things that I use. And I use all this stuff.
Okay,
Okay.
and
Like,
just
it's
so our
almost
listeners
scary,
know, yeah, the link for her for that is going to be in the show notes.
Oh,
So
okay.
if
Okay,
you
cool.
want, if you're listening, viewing this, and you're going, I want to know what she's using, that link to your link tree
My
will
link
be
tree
in
will
the
be
show
in
notes,
there.
so they can just click right through. Okay.
Exactly. Cause,
Yeah.
'cause it's scary. And as you might imagine, I have run from helping other people that have the same thing that I do because I'm so sick of dealing with it, like,
Yeah.
but God brings them my way, and and it's very overwhelming, and they're so tired, and they're sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Sure.
And I get it. Oh my gosh, do I get it? And so it's like, look, I know you don't want to hear this, and I know it's expensive. I didn't get everything all at one time
Right.
either. But you gotta understand that you have to do proactive things. God answers prayer all the time, but he looks for us to put the work in, and he requires things of us. And if I could interject just one thing that has made the biggest change in my health that I wish I even knew in the beginning, but I didn't know in the beginning, is the emotional component.
Yes.
When you're talking about frequency, and so that's why I love frequency therapy as much as I do. The the toll that emotions play
Yeah.
in the body, because that's all this is, and that's all the tumor was, and everything, trapped, unresolved emotions, trauma, all of that. Guys, if you do not get a hold of those emotions and move them out of the body, your body will not lose weight. It won't get healthy. It will not grab at anything.
Right.
Whatever you're doing, you're just throwing jello up against the wall. And it's very disheartening, and nobody wants to hear that because nobody wants to do the work. And I'm not, the good thing about frequency therapy is that you're not, unlike, a counselor where a lot of times you're rehashing, traumas and things like that, because that's also not good for your body either, because then your
I mean, it
cells
can be
hear
good
that.
to get it, to talk about it and get it out, but you don't want to live it
Yes.
and revisit it over and
And
over and
revisit it
over
over and
again.
over and over
Yeah.
again. Whereas when you use frequency therapy, it will help to then just move that out.
Now,
And you
you
will,
use frequency therapy in your practice. That's one of the things we said at the
yeah,
beginning. You use several different things. You do believe in real food nutrition. You do
yes,
believe in detoxing and doing things like the vibration plate and the rebounding, because that's very helpful in getting the
yes,
lymphatic system moving. And, like you said, it's the waste system of the body. Got to get the waste
yes.
out. But you mentioned this frequency therapy, and just by the way, guys, AnneMarie has helped me with some things with frequency therapy, so that was a big thank you for that. I'm
Oh, absolutely.
excited. But you use this in your practice now. I want to talk about that, but before we go there, I want to find out. Now, you're in Pennsylvania. I'm in Georgia. So if I
Okay.
wanted to see you, can I see you virtually? Can I make
Oh
an
yeah,
appointment? Okay.
I help everybody via telehealth. And
Okay.
I mean, I do some local house calls here for the Amish, because they will not go to see a medical doctor. And so, they look for somebody like me. And I'm the only naturopath within a 35-mile radius. So if
Okay.
somebody's housebound or, something like that, I will do house calls and stuff. But for the most part, I see everybody telehealth now. I
Okay.
closed my brick and mortar about 2 years ago.
Oh, okay. So you are pretty much telehealth, except for that. Okay.
Yep.
So I want to make an appointment with you. Guess what? If you're listening, watching, not only will we have the link to the products that AnneMarie uses, but we'll have a way to contact her web address and all that, so you can get in touch with her. So tell me how that works, because let's say I want to talk to you, and I'm like, I'm dealing with, it may not be the same diagnosis that you have, but I just want, like, I really want help. I want results. How does that work for your practice?
So generally, what I will do is you'll get set up with, because I have a wonderful team. They will set you up with a 15-minute exploratory call, just to, no charge, just to see, are we a fit? Because believe it or not, a lot of people, even though they say they want to get healed, they really don't. They stay trapped in themselves. And that's hard to help somebody that's
Yeah.
like that. So, and I may not be your cup of tea. You may talk to me for 15 minutes and go, yeah, maybe not.
Okay.
So that's our time to see if we're going to be a fit, and I can give you if I feel like I can, if it's a place where, I can help you, then we're going to talk about it, very briefly, and just say, yeah, I think I can help you. I think, that are working together, you'll get served, because that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for places, for people to serve. And, if it's a go, then we schedule an appointment. The first appointment is at least an hour long, where I'm getting the history, I'm getting all of the things that I can, because that's going to help me to help you better.
Okay.
Okay. to know different things. So you'll get sent a questionnaire to fill out and send back, and we'll meet for an hour via telehealth, like this, on a platform. And I'm going to give you my best recommendations at that point. If you want to then further, the relationship and say, okay, let's get started on this, then we set up appointments according to your needs and, what you have going on and things. And we work via telehealth. And also I have a private separate phone for, text messages and stuff, that they can send text messages and stuff to me, in between visits and things like that. So, there's that. And I have developed some wonderful relationships with people all over the country, all the way up to Alaska. I even have 2 Canadians now. So
Cool.
that's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
But, like as I'm traveling, like I go up and see my mom and my siblings and everything up in Wisconsin all the time. And so from Pennsylvania to Wisconsin, there's like a little route that you take. And I have clients all the way around. And they're like, you're going home. Okay, tell me what day you're going to be in my area. You got to stop by. We need lunch. We need to, one of them is Andrea and her husband. Oh my gosh. She's a massage therapist. And so she absolutely insists that I spend the night at their house. I get a massage, we talk, so it's, I guess, a house call, if you will. But she's like, you're not staying at a hotel, you're staying with us. And so every time I drive, I just check with them and like, okay, you guys going to be around, whatever. Oh my gosh, yes. And I'm treated like royalty. So like,
wonderful.
it is. Oh, I know, it is wonderful. So I end up doing like house calls, but they're fun,
Yeah.
So God has brought some absolutely amazing people into my life through all of this.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool.
That's cool.
It
All
is
right.
really cool.
So tell us more about frequency, because we've got just a few minutes before we need to wrap up. It's been such a great conversation learning.
I know. The hour goes fast.
It does. Oh my goodness.
And I could talk about frequency like all day. So yeah,
So
they're kind of
tell us,
contagious.
what do we need to know about frequency and how it helps us, the body heal?
The biggest thing that I think, especially as a Christian, that you need to know is that it's not New Age. It is not from the devil. God spoke the world into existence. That's frequency. Us speaking is frequency. Okay. Frequency is everywhere. You don't see it. Okay. Like prayer is frequency.
Yeah.
All right. It's just between us and God. But anything, if I called you on the phone, I'm going to press in your phone number, and it's going to go straight to you, right?
Right.
Okay, it's not going to go to anybody else. It's going to go straight to you. Why? Because the frequency of that number that I put in brings it straight to your phone. Doesn't bring it to everybody on Verizon. It just brings it to you.
Sure.
Okay. And so when you're using something like a frequency scanner, you put in a profile of someone. So let's say I put in your profile and I put you in there. So if I were to send frequency to you or anything, or if it's going to scan you or something like that, it just uses you because it has you in there. And the more you do it, the more it gets to know you. And so you can do things like scanning and you can see things. It does not diagnose, does not treat, but what it does is it gives you a roadmap and says, there's a little disruption over here. There's a little disruption over here. Okay. And it helps you then to say, oh, okay. And then you have to connect the dots. And either I do that as your practitioner, or better yet, I teach you how to do it because I love to empower people to be able to handle their health mostly on their own. I mean, there's always going to be a day that you're going to need another set of ears, another set of eyes, all of that kind of thing. But I would much rather empower you to learn how to take care of yourself and your family, because if you're relying on me, that's just like someone relying on a medical doctor. Don't hand over your health to somebody else. You need to be your own advocate. And if I learned nothing from that craziness back then, where I handed over my life to, 5 or 6 medical doctors, and am I thankful? that they did what they did,
Oh, sure.
obviously.
Yeah.
But I now that I know what I know, I wish I'd have done some different things.
Hmm.
So frequency is used all the time. It's used through music. God
Hmm.
uses it all the time. He
Hmm.
invented it. Just like everything else he's invented, Satan comes in and tries to, wiggle his way into all of the things, but it's not like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's, it has to do with making sure that your intention is right. There's so many different things to frequency therapy. Like I said, I could talk all day on that.
Yeah, there
Don't
it's
want
a
to bore
big
you.
topic. It's a big topic. So,
It is a big
but
topic, but I
it's,
love
it
it,
is
and
one of
it's so
those,
effective.
yeah, it's one of those things where, I think of it as like, we have so many frequencies, both it can be outside, it can be our cell phones, it's like
Uh-huh.
we're always emitting. We have those smart meters, we have power lines and cell towers and all of kinds of different frequencies bombarding. But it's also the frequency of our thoughts. Like you said, it's
Yep.
our emotions as well that affect us. And what I think of it is kind of like noise canceling headphones. If a very
Yes.
basic, you've got something coming in that is set at one frequency. Let's say it's a negative, bad
Hmm.
frequency, and the energy healing through frequency is like that matching opposite, where it pushes
Exactly.
back against it, so it allows the body to heal. It's the good things that we need
Oh
allowing the
yeah,
body to heal.
absolutely. It's all about, if you think about in Matthew 8:28, where God cast out the demons into the swine, they go jumping off, and then he says you have to then fill yourself
Right.
with the
The
goodness,
good things.
basically the goodness of him.
Hmm.
So, with frequency therapy, we hope to move out the ugly, and then we fill in with the good frequency.
Hmm.
And a lot of times it comes in the form of just listening to music,
Yeah.
and just, and it's amazing when you see the transformation. Because, like I
Hmm.
said before, you could try everything. You could try to lose weight. You can try to do this. You can try to do all of the things. But if your system is dysregulated and your emotions are in the toilet, all that stuff is going to be like throwing jello up
Yeah.
against the wall.
Yeah.
It's not going to stick. And so by moving those out, and a lot of times detoxifying, getting things out of the system and
Hmm.
helping the system not be so overwhelmed, your body's able to receive that. And that's all from God. God didn't die and to give us life and give it abundantly for us to be living the way we've been acting like we're living. He didn't do that.
Yeah.
Would you die for that? I wouldn't die for that.
Yeah.
Okay. And so just being able to grasp onto that, it's not woo woo, guys. It really isn't. And that is a whole video all by itself. How
Yeah.
it's not woo woo. It's, you have to look at intention and who's offering it,
Yeah, very good.
you know.
All right, so if there is one thing, and this may be hard, but if there is one thing that you would say to the listeners, encouragement, advice, whatever, for their health, for whatever, what would that one thing be?
Oh my word. Yeah, that's the hard part is the one thing, because I'm over here going, okay, well, it matters what you put in and on your body, and
Yeah,
um and yeah, I guess I mean it would come down to the whole frequency of
yeah,
things, because it matters who you surround yourself with. If you've constantly got somebody talking negative in your ear, the closest people to you are dragging you down and talking negativity. That was one of the best parts, not the best part of being sick, but I was isolated. Like all the noise stopped, and
mm,
I was out of everything. I was no longer volunteering places. I was no, I had to focus on me, and so I had to listen to the Father and
yeah,
have a choice, and hearing from Him. And so getting rid of all of that outside noise and get yourself to a place where you're filling your cup and filling yourself. Because just like those little airline attendants tell you all the time,
Yeah.
you got to fill yourself up
Yeah.
with the oxygen before you can help somebody else.
Yeah.
And self care is not selfish. It's
No,
not, it's an
it's
absolute
not.
necessity. In balance, like with anything else, in balance.
Yeah. That's so good. And we can, meditate on God's word, read his word, pray, speak it
Exactly.
back. And, you mentioned music, praise and worship, music
All of that.
especially. So
All of
good.
that. It will set your day. It will absolutely set your day.
Hmm.
Even if you got like 5 minutes,
Hmm.
it's better than the alternative.
Yeah. So that's good. All right. Well, it has been amazing. I mean, you really do have an amazing story. Of and it's like some people might look at it and go, well, she's still dealing with this health challenge, but I love your perspective of I'm winning every day. I'm winning, and you're getting
And that's
better,
frequency.
and it's frequency. And so I just love that. So thanks so much for joining me again. Those who are
Absolutely.
listening,
Thank you for
just
inviting me.
I'm glad to have you. This has been a wonderful story, and glad to share it. So reach out to Dr. AnneMarie, and we've got the links in the show notes, and just reach out, talk to her, see how like you said, is it a good fit? Because there are people that we fit better with, we work
Hmm.
better with, and so if it's not a great fit, find somebody else. But I love what you're doing, and I love the hope that I'm going back to that. What you're helping people with is hope. There is hope that no matter
There
what you're
is hope out there.
dealing with, you can get better. You can get
Hmm.
better. So,
You absolutely
um,
can.
great. Again, thanks again so much. I really have enjoyed it.
Absolutely.
All
Thank you
right.
so much, Beth.
Thanks.